Okay, thanks for those of you who are online now. We'll be getting the meeting started in just a minute. Okay, it's 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Hello, and welcome to this virtual public meeting for the Rock Springs Road and West Orange Trail Extension studies. These studies are being completed concurrently by Metro Plan Orlando in partnership with the City of Apopka and Orange County. My name's Laura Bauk. I'm a senior transportation engineer here at Metro Plan Orlando, and I'm the project manager for both studies. Thank you for attending this meeting to discuss the transportation options that have been developed to improve safety and the travel experience within the study area. We're glad you're here. This Zoom meeting is accessible to the public via computer, tablet, or phone. This meeting is currently live streaming on the Metro Plan Orlando YouTube channel, and the video recording will be available there later so you can rewatch or share with friends. You'll find a link to the YouTube live stream in the chat box, which is located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We will begin this meeting with introductions to the study team, and then we'll have a presentation that covers both studies. At the conclusion of the presentation, we'll provide you with information on how to access and use the virtual meeting room, and then we're going to have an interactive question and answer session. This meeting is going to last about an hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes, including the Q&A session. And then following the live meeting, the virtual room will be open. You'll be able to access graphics and web maps showing the options that have been developed and explore them at your own pace. The virtual room will also provide access to other project materials, including a survey that we encourage you to take so you can share your input on the options we're going to go over today. We'll let you know how to access the virtual room at the end of this meeting. For this meeting, we have a few guidelines that will help things flow more smoothly. All attendees are placed in listen-only mode during the presentation. Members of the public who want to ask a question can use the Q&A button on your toolbar to ask questions throughout this meeting. We're going to answer as many questions as possible during the question and answer session, which will begin directly after the formal presentation. If you called into the meeting on your phone, you won't be able to enter comments into the question box. However, there are other options to provide input, which we will review at the end of the presentation. You can also contact me by phone or by email at lbauk@metroplanorlando.org. My contact information is provided on the screen and on our project website. To access the Q&A box, select Q&A on the Zoom control panel and enter your comment or question in the Q&A box and select send in the bottom right corner. If we go to the next slide, that shows you where that is. Okay, we have a very informative presentation coming up shortly, but first I wanted to welcome a few elected officials that have taken the time to join us this evening. We have with us Mayor Nelson from the City of Apopka. And I believe on the attendee side, we also have Commissioner Velasquez from the City of Apopka. Thank you so much for making time to join us for this meeting. And Mayor Nelson, the floor is yours if you wanted to say a few words to help us get started.
Well, yes. Well, thank you, Laura. Appreciate this. What a great collaborative effort between Orange County, City of Apopka, and Metro Plan. We appreciate all the work that you've already put into this project and look forward to a great outcome. And so just thanks to the team and what you've already accomplished and what we will continue to accomplish in trying to solve those transportation issues up in Northwest Orange County. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Nelson. We appreciate your time today. So our main presenter today is going to be Amy Sermons. So I'm going to introduce Amy and the rest of the team now. Amy joins us from the firm VHB, and she's going to give an overview of the transportation options that have been developed for each study. Amy's our consultant project manager for these studies, and she's joined by Mr. Kevin Freeman, and Ms. Nikki Melendez, also with VHB, will be available as needed to answer questions during the Q&A. And then joining me from Metro Plan Orlando are Ms. Taylor Laurent, who's helping me manage these projects internally, and Mr. Nick Lepp, who's our Director of Transportation Planning, as well as several members of our communications team, including Ms. Cynthia Lambert, Ms. Marianne Horn, and Ms. Leilani Vayonga, who are helping things run smoothly on the back end of the Zoom meeting. Cynthia is also going to help us facilitate the Q&A session a little bit later. We're also joined today by Pam Richmond from the city of Apopka and Brian Sanders from Orange County, who have been so helpful as we coordinate with their respective agencies and constituents on this project. Pam and Brian will be available to help questions as needed during the Q&A session. So before we begin the project presentation, we have a few polling questions to help us learn a little bit about you. First, we'd like to know how you found out about this meeting. You will see on your screen, or you should see if you have the Zoom screen up, the questions along with some answers. And in order to answer the questions, you can just click and we'll wait a few minutes to see what people are thinking today. We want to know if you heard about this through email, social media, perhaps word of mouth. Maybe you saw some of the outdoor signage that's out and about in the study area, or maybe some other way. Give it another 10 seconds or so. All right, it's looking like we have a good mix of people. Some of you heard from email, social media, and other, who are big winners for this one. Okay, and that's now. Show the results. And now that we have a better understanding of how you found out about the meeting, we'd like to do our second poll question and find out a little bit about why you're interested in learning about this meeting. Let us know if you live near the study area, work in the study area, perhaps you travel through often to visit businesses or schools in the study area, or maybe you're an avid trail user. Please let us know. Thank you for those of you who are voting. Your answers help us to have a better understanding of what priorities may be in joining the meeting this evening and help us to prioritize the questions as we go to the question and answer session. And it looks like we're slowing down on the answers. We'll give it another 10 seconds or so. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. And once again, it looks like we have a pretty good mix. A little over half of you either live near the study area or use the West Orange Trail, and some of you work or access the businesses as well. All right, well, thank you for participating in our live polling. That helps us get to know you a little bit better as we get into the presentation. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Amy, who's going to go over the main presentation and share the concepts that we've been developing for these two studies. Amy, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you, Laura.
Absolutely.
So we'll start with the agenda for the presentation. We're going to cover an introduction of the studies, including study locations, project life cycle, public engagement to date, and the purpose of each study. Next, we will present the proposed Rock Springs Road study strategies and alternatives to improve safety and operations within the study area, and the potential West Orange Trail Extension study alignment alternatives. Last, we will review the study schedule and close with how you can get involved. Metro Plan Orlando is conducting two studies within the city of Apopka. It's the Rock Springs Road study and the West Orange Trail Extension study. The Rock Springs Road study is located on Rock Springs Road from Welch Road to Lester Road, including the Welch Road at Rock Springs Road intersection. The Rock Springs Road study is also considering options to improve operations and safety at the intersection of Sandpiper Street and Park Avenue, and additional sidewalks along Sandpiper Street from Lake Avenue to Ustler Road. The West Orange Trail Extension study limits are from the existing West Orange Trail terminus at the intersection of Rock Springs Road and Lester Road to the proposed Wekiwa Trail Extension at the intersection of Rock Springs Road and Kelly Park Road. The trail extension study is also considering spur trails to provide connection to the Seminole County Wekiwa Blueway Trail at the Wekiwa State Park entrance on Wekiwa Springs Road via Welch Road, and provide connection to the Wolf Lake Elementary and Middle Schools, as well as the City of Apopka's Northwest Recreation Complex via Pumpkin Road. These studies are being held in conjunction due to proximity and schedule. A traditional project lifecycle consists of 4 steps, including planning, design, right-of-way acquisition, and finally construction. We are currently in the planning stage for both projects. During the planning phase, the project need is identified, improvement strategies are evaluated, and a recommendation is selected to move forward to the design phase. Timing for each phase is dependent upon available funding. It is essential during the planning phase to have early and ongoing public engagement. The purpose of this meeting is to gather input to assist the study team with determining recommendations to move forward for both of these important projects. Earlier this year, an online survey was conducted from June 5th to July 18th, 2021. We received a total of 627 survey responses. Outreach is used to encourage the public to participate, included direct mail to over 3,200 property owners and local residents, mail and email notifications to local agencies, business owners, and HOAs, outdoor signage, and social media posts. The survey responses, along with engineering analysis and local agency input, was used to determine the potential options and alignments that are being considered for each study. Now that we understand the background for the 2 studies, we will look at the strategies and alternatives being considered, beginning with this Rock Springs Road study. The purpose of the Rock Springs Road study is to evaluate options at the Rock Springs Road and Welch Road intersection, safety and access improvements along Rock Springs Road, realignment and signalization at the Sandpiper Street and Park Avenue intersection, and additional sidewalks along Sandpiper Street from Lake Avenue to Usler Road. The following options are considerations to improve operations and safety as part of the Rock Springs Road study. Additional turn lanes and traffic control separators at the intersection of Welch Road and Rock Springs Road. A new signal at the Publix North entrance near the McDonald's and Bubbaloo's restaurants. A new mid-block crossing south of Tanglewood Drive. Minor intersection improvements at the Lester Road and Rock Springs Road intersection. Realignment and new signal at the Sandpiper Street and Park Avenue intersection. New sidewalk along the north side of Sandpiper Street from Lake Avenue to Park Avenue, and new sidewalk along the south side of Sandpiper Street from Park Avenue to Usler Road. For alternative 1, so we did look at 2 alternatives for Rock Springs Road. For alternative 1, I also want to point out that we understand the importance of these improvements we understand that there was a fatal accident on the corridor today. So that brings out even further the importance of looking at this intersection. So for alternative 1, the east leg of the intersection features a single left turn lane, 2 through lanes, dual right turn lanes, and a raised traffic separator. The west leg of the intersection consists of single left and right turn lanes, 2 through lanes, and a raised traffic separator. The north leg of the intersection consists of dual left turn lanes, a dedicated right turn lane, and a traffic separator to restrict left turns in and out of the public south entrance. And lastly, the south leg of the intersection proposes single left turn lane, a dedicated right turn lane, 2 through lanes, and a raised traffic separator. Alternative 2 provides a similar lane geometry to alternative 1, but alternative 2 does not provide the northbound and southbound dedicated right turn lanes. This study proposes adding a signal to the intersection at the Publix North entrance and Rock Springs Road. The study team has come up with 2 alternatives for this intersection. In alternative 1, the south leg of the intersection features a dedicated northbound right turn lane and 2 through lanes. The north leg of the intersection features a southbound left turn lane and 2 through lanes, along with a raised traffic separator. And the east leg of the intersection features a left turn lane and a right turn lane out of the Publix North entrance. One more click. Alternative 2 provides a similar lane geometry to alternative 1, but alternative 2 does not provide the dedicated northbound right turn lane. A new mid-block crossing is proposed south of Tanglewood Drive. The mid-block crosswalk includes a raised median island with opportunities for landscape, Rectangular rapid flashing beacons, also known as RRFBs, would be installed along with the crosswalk to increase safety for pedestrians. Moving down to Sandpiper Street at Park Avenue, where proposed updates include the realignment of the east leg of Sandpiper Street and a signalized intersection at Sandpiper Street and Park Avenue. The study is also evaluating the construction of new sidewalk along Sandpiper Street. Again, the new sidewalk would be provided on the sides of the street that don't have existing sidewalk. So specifically along the north side of Sandpiper Street on the west of Park Avenue to Lake Avenue, and along the south side of Sandpiper Street east of Park Avenue to Usler Road. This would increase sidewalk connectivity to the existing West Orange Trail. Potential impacts associated with Rock Springs Road at Welch Road intersection alternatives include the need for right-of-way acquisition and impacts to existing utilities. Alternative 1 and Alternative 2 will have similar utility impacts. However, Alternative 2 requires less right-of-way than Alternative 1. At the public's north entrance, right-of-way impacts are anticipated along the west and east side of Rock Springs Road in Alternative 1, and right-of-way impacts are anticipated along the west side of Rock Springs Road for Alternative 2. Moving back down to the Sandpiper and Park Avenue, the proposed updates are anticipated to require utility impacts and 2 corner clips of right-of-way in the southwest and northwest corners of the intersection are anticipated. The new right-of-way needed for the realignment east of Park Avenue. Oops, sorry about that. Too far. The new right-of-way needed for the realignment of East Park Avenue exists entirely within the city-owned parcel. We will now review the Rock Springs Road traffic analysis results. Using an evaluation measure called level of service, also referred to as LOS, we are able to relate the quality of service for a mode of travel. These figures illustrate the traffic served under conditions ranging from level of service A to level of service F. Similar to grades in school, a roadway that performs at level of service A is not congested and supports free-flowing traffic. A roadway that receives a failing grade experiences heavy congestions and has significant delays as depicted in the level of service F exhibit. Existing traffic data was collected and analyzed along the study corridor. The target level of service assigned for the study corridor is LOS-E. The existing traffic analysis shows the Welch Road at Rock Springs Road intersection in both the AM and PM peak periods do not operate at acceptable level of service, as well as the Sandpiper Street at Park Avenue intersection in the PM peak period. Utilizing future growth projections and traffic models, a long-term growth factor was applied to project the traffic volumes within the study area to a future year of 2045. With no additional improvements to Rock Springs Road, the roadway is anticipated to not operate with an acceptable level of service in the northbound direction for both the AM and PM peak period, and in the southbound direction for the AM peak period. Additionally, both the Welch Road at Rock Springs Road intersection and the Sandpiper Street and Park Avenue intersection are anticipated to not operate with an acceptable level of service in both the AM and PM peak period. While the intersection at Rock Springs Road and Welch Road are projected to operate the same level of service as existing, it is expected to experience much higher delays in the future year 2045 with no improvements. Utilizing future year 2045 projected traffic, the study team has compared a no-build versus a build operation for Alternative 1 and Alternative 2. For Alternative 1, all operations are expected to be within the target level of service E in 2045 build conditions. Additionally, there's a reduced overall delay at the Welch Road intersection by 78% in the morning in the AM and 76% in the PM. Similar to Alternative 1, Alternative 2 build conditions result in all operations within the target level of service. There is a reduced overall delay at the Welch Road intersection by 74% in the AM and by 72% in the PM. In Alternative 2, the Welch Road intersection operates efficiently but has more failing movements. Both alternatives are expected to reduce the overall delay at the intersection, with Alternative 1 providing slightly better improvements over Alternative 2. So now I'm going to turn it over for another polling question.
Okay, thank you, Amy. So before Amy transitions over to presenting on the route options for extending the West Orange Trail to 3 new destinations, we want to do one more live polling question and learn a little bit about how you use the trail. So for those of you who are in the Zoom, you should have seen your options pop up. If you could let us know if you use it for walking, running, riding your bike, roller skating, some other way that you use the trail, or maybe you're not a trail user at all. I'll give it another 15 seconds or so to let the answers come in. Okay, it looks like things have already slowed down, and most of you are using the trail either to walk, run, or ride a bike, and then about a little under 15% of you do not use the trail at all. All right, well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about how you use the trail, and now we're going to talk about what we are proposing for some routing options for extending the trail. Amy?
Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
Get back. Okay, so now, as Laura mentioned, we'll review the alignment alternatives that we are looking at for the West Orange Trail Extension Study. The West Orange Trail Extension Study is evaluating a connection between the existing portion of the West Orange Trail and Wekiwa Springs State Park entrance and Wekiwa River Blueway Trail. The study will also evaluate options for connecting the existing West Orange Trail to Wolf Lake Elementary and Middle Schools and the City of Apopka's Northwest Recreation Complex, as well as to the proposed Wekiwa Trail. The West Orange Trail Extension Study is looking at 3 corridors: Welch Road and Wekiwa Springs Road from Rock Springs to the Wekiwa Springs State Park entrance, Pumpkin Road from Rock Springs Road to the Wolf Lake Elementary and Middle Schools, and Rock Springs Road from Lester Road to Kelly Park Road. So the Pumpkin Road alignments run along Pumpkin Road to connect Wolf Lake Elementary and Middle Schools, as well as the city's Northwest Recreation Complex. Alternative alignments, including utilizing the existing bike trail on Wester Road and Bick Road, are shown in the dashed lines. Yep, I think I went to the wrong one there. Sorry about that. Let me check where I'm at. Bear with me 1 second. Ah. Okay, sorry, I'm not advancing. Sorry, back to the previous slide. The Welch Road alignments, the trail is proposed to run along Welch Road, along the Wekiwa State Park boundary, up to Wekiwa Springs Road to tie into the Wekiwa River Blueway Trail at the Wekiwa State Park entrance. An alternative alignment is being recommended to remain along Welch Road to Wekiwa Springs Road and utilize Wekiwa Springs Road to connect to the Wekiwa River Blue Trail. Pumpkin Road alignments run along Pumpkin Road again to connect to the elementary and middle schools, as well as the recreation complex. And here you can see the alignment, alternative alignment that utilizes the existing bike trail on Lester Road and Bick Road. Along Rock Springs Road from Lester Road to Kelly Park, the study is looking to keep the proposed trail alignment along the east side of Rock Springs Road to tie into the proposed Wekiwa Trail. An alternative alignment is also being proposed to utilize the Wekiwa State Park boundary where possible. The proposed alignments to the West Orange Trail are associated with potential impacts to the right-of-way. The Welch Road spur will require additional right-of-way and may require roadway modifications in some areas to accommodate the trail. On the Pumpkin Road spur, 2.18 acres of right-of-way are impacted, and 1.6 acres of right-of-way are impacted on Lester Road. The Rock Springs Road on-road trail may require additional right-of-way, and the trail within the park will require coordination with and approval from the park. So looking at the schedule, we began these planning studies in early spring of 2021, and we expect it to be completed by the end of this year of 2022. Following this public meeting, the study team will continue to refine the alternatives and analysis. Public meeting number 2 is anticipated to be held in the fall of this year, and the study team will present the study recommendations. Following this live presentation, we encourage you to visit the virtual meeting room available through the study website at metroplanorlando.org/rocksprings. The virtual meeting room will be open until February 28th, After that, the meeting room materials will be available on the project website. Once you get to the virtual meeting room, you can view the proposed options for both studies. You can access interactive web maps to view the proposed options and zoom in on areas of interest. You can watch a recording of this presentation and view the public meeting handout. You can review study documents and provide your feedback using the Project Alternative Survey or the comment form, which can be emailed or printed and mailed to the study team. To navigate the virtual meeting room, hold down the left mouse button and drag to pan around the room. You can click boards and stations to view the project information. As you pan around the screen, the Rock Springs Road project displays are provided on the left side of the room, and the West Orange Trail project displays are provided on the right side of the room. At the front desk, you are able to sign in, access the survey and comment form, view the public meeting handout, and view other project documents. At the back of the room, a recording of this presentation will be made available. On the bottom right side of the virtual room, there are navigation keys you may use at any time to navigate to the front desk, Rock Springs Road project displays, or the West Orange Trail project displays. If you're not able to visit the virtual meeting room, there are several other ways you can get involved and provide feedback on this study. You can enter your comments in the Zoom Q&A box during this live presentation. You can mail your comments to the project manager, Laura Bauk, at 250 South Orange Avenue, Suite 200, Orlando, Florida, 32801, or email to lbouck@metroplanorlando.org. You can also submit your comments and fill out the online survey directly through the project website at metroplanorlando.org/rocksprings. We will now begin the question and answer portion of the meeting. If you have not already, please enter your comments into the Q&A box located on the Zoom control panel. You may also mail or email your questions following the meeting, again to lbouck, B-O-U-C-K, @metroplanorlando.org. We will answer as many questions live this evening as time permits.
All right, thank you so much, Amy, for that informative presentation. That was fantastic. As Amy said, you can still enter any questions that you may have into the Q&A box, and we're going to answer as many questions as we can get to until around 7 o'clock or until we run out of questions. And then after the Q&A session is over, we're going to be opening up the virtual meeting room, and we'll drop a link in the chat for you so you can access that. And now I'm going to turn things over to Cynthia Lambert to help us walk through the Q&A session.
Hey, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Cynthia Lambert. I'm the Public Information Manager at Metro Plan Orlando, and I will be delivering your questions to the study team. Before we start, we want to let you know we already had a question on whether the materials will be available and when they will be available. Laura is going to remind you at the end of this meeting where you can find those. But tomorrow, you can expect to get an email from us with all the links to all the materials today, to the virtual meeting room that Amy talked about in her presentation, and a link to our survey as well, because we want to make sure and hear from you what your opinions are on all the proposals that you've heard today. So look out for that, and we'll be updating our website tomorrow, so you'll be able to find all those materials on the study page. That's the URL that's currently on the screen. So look for those tomorrow afternoon. All right, well, we do have a good lineup of questions going here. Let's see, our first one is a definition question for the public. So what exactly is a raised traffic separator, please?
Okay, I will take a stab at that first, and then maybe I'll turn it over to you, Amy. So a raised traffic separator is going to be a separator that is a concrete separator, something that is not mountable, that is going to stop people from crossing over into another lane of traffic. The exact type of separator or the design will be decided during the design phase for Rock Springs Road. Amy, is there anything you want to add to that?
I think you got it. It's essentially a bit more narrow than a median, like you said, just something to physically separate the traffic. You got it.
Thanks. All right. So basically a piece of concrete added there to deter people from going where they shouldn't. So we have a lot of questions that have come in with concerns about bicyclist and pedestrian issues. So first up, let's see here. let's talk about the Rock Springs and Welch Road intersection. We have a question from Emily here. Do the traffic volumes warrant those additional turn lanes at Rock Springs and Welch? She's concerned that those might make the crossing for pedestrians longer and so expose them a little bit more. And she would like us to consider pedestrian refuges at the island at the intersection to make that a little more comfortable for pedestrians who are trying to cross.
Okay, thank you, Cynthia. So my initial answer is yes, the traffic volumes did warrant having those additional turn lanes at Rock Springs Road and Welch Road. And we would try and look into making sure that the signal timing, how long the signal is for pedestrians to cross that roadway would be enough for them to cross the street safely. But we can also look into whether or not pedestrian refuges are something that we can fit into the proposed concept. Amy, anything to add?
No, I think you covered it very well.
Okay. And the rest of you who are panelists, if any of you would like to chime in, please raise your hand. I'll make sure that you have a chance to speak as well. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Okay, and also staying on the same intersection there, can you talk a little bit more about the idea of dual right turn lanes? We have one person in attendance who thought that part was removed from the proposal. So can you just clarify on what exactly is included in the proposal?
Okay, so I'll give a little bit of history and then Pam or anyone who would like to jump in and talk some more. There was a prior change at that intersection to add a right turn lane onto northbound Rock Springs Road from Welch Road. In the past, I do believe it was a conversion of one of the through lanes, and there were some issues once cars were turning into sort of the far right lane that would swing out into the left lane, and there were conflicts there. It wasn't very safe. The new proposal does have dual turn lanes, but it would be taking some right of way and making a new turn lane, and there would be 2 receiving lanes along Rock Springs Road. So we think that it's going to function a lot better than what was put out there previously. Anyone else would like to weigh in?
No, I think you hit it pretty well. Yeah, there was some unintended consequences of adding that through and turn movement. There was a pedestrian safety issue as well that changed the timing of that situation there. And so we found that it was more efficient to go back to the previous scenario that's out there today. It runs a little more efficient than the dual. We wanted to try it out to see how it worked, but we're looking for performance, so we stepped back to the previous scenario.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
So now we'll take a couple of questions that are bicycle related, and I'm going to combine a couple of these because I think the answers will be very similar.
Okay.
So one person wants to know whether bike lanes will be provided. They say for faster riders, the trail crossing of driveways are very dangerous, they feel. And then let's couple that with a question about is the study team integrating pedestrian and cycling comfort and not just safety into the design proposals? And are the study team and elected officials actually having personal interactions as pedestrians and cyclists out in the study corridor?
So there's a lot of questions. Thank you, Cynthia. So I'll start with the question about the bicycle lanes. The concepts that we've developed so far, the options we've developed, do not include bicycle lanes. It would just be the trail. In terms of reducing interactions with driveways and crossings, for the extensions where we can, we're looking at options for going, and for instance, for the extension from Leicester Road up to Kelly Park Road, we're looking at options that would go along the boundary of the park as a way to reduce some of those interactions with driveways. So we're looking at that where we can. And in terms of bicyclists and pedestrian comfort, one of the things that we're looking at in particular for the Ponkin Road extension, but others as well, reducing crossings of the roadway. Those are all things that we take into account. And we certainly appreciate any input we can get on the survey on other ways that we can look into making things more comfortable for our trail users. Anything to add, Amy or others?
Yeah, I'd like to jump in
Okay.
on there a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, it would make sense to look at on-street bike lanes if we had them already for some portions, maybe connecting those together, but we don't have those. And we've seen and if we were proposing that, we would ask a survey question: how comfortable do you feel riding on Rock Springs Road? And time again, we get survey responses back on these types of roadways that people are not comfortable riding in the lanes. And that's the general public. There's certainly more avid bicyclists that will continue to ride in those lanes, and state law welcomes them there, welcomes them on the sidewalk and on the multipurpose paths. So that's part of the comfort that is also being considered as well. And we've weighed all of the aspects of conflicts together as well. So I think this is representative of the context of this area and the users that are using the facilities. I've lived in this area for 18 years and I'm yet to see anybody ride in the lane. I see a lot of people, I see bicyclists in the fifth lane in the center sometimes, which is just a terrible idea. So that's what we're proposing tonight.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate your perspective.
Thanks. Okay, so we're moving on to some questions about Sandpiper Road. Karen wants to know whether the speed limit has been considered for Sandpiper Road. They have a lot of folks who tend to speed. And then we also had a concern from Rob, who is concerned that Sandpiper and Rock Springs could be used as a bypass to alleviate some of the congestion from the Welch and Rock Springs intersection.
I will let Amy handle the speed question. With respect to the Sandpiper as a bypass, one of the impetus for the city of Apopka asking us to look at the realignment of that intersection was to facilitate that sort of movement. And so we've straightened out the roadway and we're adding that signal to help make things safer, but also to process traffic, I think, a little bit more efficiently. So we're hoping that will really help make that another option for people who are going in that direction.
And as far as the speed goes, I'm not sure if the question's related to, changing the speed. We are not looking at changing the speed limit on Sandpiper Street. We do evaluate the traffic analysis based on the current speed that is out there. So, anytime we introduce, sidewalks or anything that add additional, what we call friction, that kind of helps reduce, that visual, not that a sidewalk doesn't provide too much visual, but in narrowing the road, those kind of things are more engineering measures to help slow the speed, but we will not be actually lowering the speed limit, if that's the question that I understand.
Thank you. That seemed to be where they were going with it, I believe.
Yeah, there is a nice grid out there. We use Sandpiper, we use Votah, we use Thompson, we use the whole network, including Welch Road. I use whatever is most comfortable and easiest to use. I'm not speeding, but I'm using those alternate corridors because they are public roads, and we're all going to be using those. And it helps if there's some sort of a crash or some other thing, road construction going on. Those help the network very nicely.
Right.
Thank you very much. We have a question about traffic on Welch. So will there be any studies on how to remediate the traffic westbound on Welch Road from Rock Springs to Thompson during the afternoon peak hours, and the same from Thompson to Wekiva Springs Road in the morning?
Well, that portion of roadway is not a part of the study, but I don't know if anyone else on our panel would like to weigh in on if there's anything planned. That may be a follow-up question.
Yeah, there is planned in a future project to eventually widen Welch. It's in some of the existing plans right now. It's not necessarily funded, but there is a vision that further down the road to eventually widen Welch, and that's some of the tie-in to the proposed intersection at Welch and Rock Springs is kind of tying into making sure that kind of sets up well for that future future project whenever that happens.
So thank you, Kevin.
Thanks. And then we have lots of questions related to the West Orange Trail. So we're going to take some of those now. So a question from Fred. The option to travel along the border of the state park is a lot more appealing. However, the park has resisted this in the past. Is it likely that the park will support this option now if the trail remains outside a fence?
Well, Orange County had been coordinating with the park as part of their master plan, their trails master plan, and we're continuing that coordination as a part of this project. And to date, they've been amenable to looking at options to have the trail alongside the park. So yes, hopefully. That's the recommendation that we come up with.
Thank you. And we had a comment from Charles saying that he thought that it's better to bike in wooded areas away from busy areas. So thank you for that, Charles. We also have a question about connectivity to Lake County. When will the West Orange Trail be tied into the Wekiva Trail via Lake County's Neighborhood Lakes Trail and Trailhead? And does this study include a connection there?
That is a fantastic question. There is a proposed segment of the Wekiva Trail that would take it down to Kelly Park Road and meet up with our proposed connection as part of this study at Kelly Park Road. I am not sure what the timing is for that particular project. I don't know if any of the panelists do. If not, we may try and put something on the website later.
I agree. We'll need to get that information.
Okay.
Okay, thank you guys. We have Valin would like a clarification when we're looking at the drawings on the West Orange Trail extensions.
Mm-hmm.
Are the dotted line alternatives, do those have more driveway crossings than the solid line ones?
The dotted line alternatives along Rock Springs Road have fewer driveway crossings. And I'm going to do a quick plug, not only for the survey where you'll have a chance to weigh in on which of those you prefer, but also for a video that we put together. It's also linked within the survey that you can look at that talks about which of those options have the fewest driveway crossings, if that's important to you. So I encourage you to watch it. It's pretty short. You can also, there are timestamps if you want to just click straight to the West Orange Trail pieces.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And concerning those driveway crossings, Jay wants to know who has priority, drivers or cyclists and walkers at driveways?
At driveways, if there's a sidewalk there, the cyclists and walkers should have priority. But in terms of safety, obviously it's incumbent on people to make sure that the drivers see them, but they should have priority. Yes.
Thank you. And Jessica would like to know how and who chooses which proposed improvement will be done to the West Orange Trail. So who has the authority to kind of decide which extensions will be moving forward, and when is the deadline to pick one choice?
That is a fantastic question. So we will take the input that we received from this meeting on the survey, and we will move forward with coming up with a recommended alternative or concept for each of the routes for the West Orange Trail from the project team. And that will go to City Council and Metro Plan Orlando Board. And following that, and it'll be towards the end of this year that this project wraps up, that we will have a recommended alternative.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I want to add to us that we'll have a second public meeting opportunity where we'll propose those so that you'll have another chance to weigh in at that point as well.
Awesome. And I'll put in a plug for our mailing list. If you haven't joined our mailing list, you can do so on the study website, metroplanorlando.org/rocksprings. Okay, let's see. We have several more questions. Mark wants to know whether a bike overpass at Welch and Rock Springs was considered as part of this study.
That was not considered as a part of the study.
Thank you. That was pretty straightforward. Jay wants to know if it's possible to get pedestrian crossings closer to every half mile mark. Is that
in terms of crosswalks across like Welch Road or something like that? That potentially, and I will say one of the survey questions that we have is asking people to let us know if there are particular locations for crosswalks to help them access the trail. So please weigh in there.
Yes, be on the lookout for that question and please be specific about where you would like to see those. That would be really helpful. Okay, let's see. Regarding the trail, Roy wants to know, is there any data supporting trail user growth if any of these extensions move forward? Would there be any advantage to the Apopka economy?
That is a good question. We did not do bicycle and pedestrian counts along the trail, if that's what the question is. But I would say my general answer to this is, within the state of Florida, we look to trails as an economic development engine. And so I think making our trails as strong and safe and with as many amenities as we can always increases economic development in the area. If anyone else would like to weigh in, though, I'm happy to hear any other perspectives.
I agree. And I think looking at the county's West Orange Trail, or the county's Orange County Trail Master Plan, I'll get it out. We'll provide some additional information on that. I don't know if it has specifics to each trail, but definitely, as Laura mentioned, it does provide an economic boon to the communities where there are trails.
Thank you. Okay, as far as bike lanes, Cedric notes that there's a bike lane on Rock Springs Road from Ponkin north, and it seems as though this there would be great continuity if we could continue from Welch to Ponkin. Has that been a consideration at all?
Amy, I'll put that one to you. It's not something that we looked at.
Oh.
No, go
I would
ahead.
say,
You go ahead, Amy.
okay. I say that area is actually no. I guess short answer is no. That was not considered. As Laura mentioned earlier, there's no bike lanes considered in this section. There is, I think, a bit wider right away in that section to the north. And really, for the study, we're trying to keep everything as tight within the right of way as we can in order to avoid buying property where's needed. And Kevin or Brian, I don't know if you have anything else to add on that.
Yeah, I was going to add a little bit. Just, one of the things that we did, do initially was the survey. We kind of got some information from folks on the survey as far as what they wanted to see. And, we're in that section south of Ponkin. It is a smaller right of way. So we did look at, what did folks want to see within that right of way section. And when we started looking at it, it's felt like the trail was going to be the best route there. Providing a additional room for the bike lanes would just provide or would require more right of way, much more expense. So we kind of determined that the best option would be to kind of combine those two efforts and put them in on the trail.
Yeah, and at the time that Orange County reconstructed that portion of Rock Springs Road, no additional right-of-way was going to be acquired for the roadway, and so we had to confine the improvement within those limits. And at that time, the trail was planned to go through the state park, so a multi-purpose path was not considered. On-street bicycle lanes were as a bicycle facility. We had to look at providing a bike facility along that corridor. Since that time, it's been a number of years has passed. Orange County is more and more looking to provide off-road bicycle facilities. So if we had it all over to do again, we probably wouldn't put the bike lanes there. We would provide an off-road feature.
Thank you, Brian.
And related to that, we did have a question about what measures might be looked at to prevent vehicle blow-throughs into sidewalks and bicycle lanes. So can we maybe talk about a little bit about how these are designed and how we might be able to improve pedestrian or cyclist safety?
Kevin, can you speak to that a little bit?
As far as the bike lanes go, I mean, obviously wider is better. That helps prevent the, and I'm assuming, I'm not quite sure what the blow through is, but maybe, cars traveling into bike lanes is what they're trying to get to. and I would say the wider the bike lane for that, the better to provide that buffer between the vehicle and the bicycle user. But for those aspects, a trail would be a better option, just because you have that curbed separated section that could prevent a car that is veering off would more hit that curb than it would going into and hitting a cyclist. So there is some advantage there with that trail.
Yeah, and I think everyone has noticed pretty much an epidemic of distracted driving due to cell phone use, and drivers are just floating all over the road, and that is a major concern.
Thank you. Both Jessica and Charles want to know, are there any additional trailheads or facilities being proposed for the West Orange Trail in this particular proposal? And Charles is a big fan of the existing Apopka trailhead, which is nice and has good restroom facilities.
Well, there is a trailhead proposed at Kelly Park Road, I believe, and I think that's the only one that we have proposed for the 3 extensions that we are looking at as part of the study, at least right now.
We're in Apopka. We've got the little space where we're realigning Sandpiper. We're going to put a little something there. So it won't be a major trailhead, but to me, the next trailhead, because you got the one there at our Kitland Nelson Park, the Orange County one. I think the place to put a nice one would be at the entrance to the state park. Be visible from Kelly Park as well as Rock Springs Road. I think to me that would be the next logical spot, because the one we've got at Sandpiper, you're less than a mile away from the one at First Street and right off of Park Avenue.
I think Orange County and the city of Apopka have tremendous opportunities as these properties redevelop, and developers are very keen on trails and inviting those users into their developments, and those kinds of amenities can be embedded into those developments and become pseudo trailheads as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. We had a bit of clarification from Jay and Lucas. They note that a problem they experience is that cars will often stop when they're coming out of the driveways. They will often stop on the actual trail and block the trail traffic. So not sure if there's anything that we can do with this study to address those things, but that was the concern.
That is an issue that I notice all the time coming in out of Publix, and there is quite a grade differential coming out of the parking lot up to the trail and the road. Now, vehicles are required to stop before they get to the trail, but state law allows them to ease forward in order to be able to have a clear vision there. I think as we go into design on these projects, there's things that we can do at those interactions, whether it be pavement treatments or additional signage as drivers approach. So I think we have a lot of opportunities to raise awareness to the trail and just other users in general.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks. And we have just a few minutes left for questions, so I'll encourage everyone in the audience, if you have any last minute questions, please go ahead and start typing those into the Q&A box now so we can try and squeeze them in before we wrap up today. We had some concerns expressed that it's really hard to make a left from communities on Rock Springs Road. I know we had a couple of additional traffic signals proposed, but is there anything else that the study team can note for that concern?
Yes, so the traffic signal in particular, the one at the Publix North, we're hoping will help with some of the access issues, at least some of the conflicting conflict points that we have on either side of Rock Springs Road. At that Publix North entrance, the parcels currently on the west side of the intersection are undeveloped. But once developed, there may be potential there for there to be cross access with the Dollar General, which would also help access to that particular parcel. So it was something that we took a lot of look at as we were preparing these concepts. Amy, did you have anything else you wanted to add, or anyone else from the panel?
Just pointing out that the traffic separators, like you mentioned, are really going to help reduce those conflicts between the northbound and southbound and folks trying to go, taking a left either direction. So you're going to be able to use those signals, as Laura mentioned, as a safer option.
Thank you. And we had some more questions about Rock Springs Road and Welch Road, particularly noting the kind of pain that folks experience in the afternoon rush hour traffic there. Former Commissioner Fred Rummer, hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Wants to know, how do the proposals address the volume of southbound traffic on Rock Springs Road that turns left onto Welch at the afternoon maximum?
Thank you. Fantastic question. We know that was a major concern for this project. And within both alternative 1 and alternative 2, we have dual southbound left turn lanes at that Rock Springs Road at Welch intersection. And they are quite long. We've provided quite a bit of storage in this concept, at least, for those left turning vehicles. And we're hoping that will address some of the issues that we've been seeing out there. Amy, anything else to add?
Exactly that, and that will also address some of the other question, the previous question, where for the operation of the intersection is operating better, that's going to help the downstream as well. So provide more opportunities for people to make it out further away from the intersection.
Yeah, I think one of the heaviest lifts are in the AM southbound. That's where everyone's going south in the mornings. And then coming back the other way in the evenings, but there is a southbound PM load. It's significant, but it's not as significant as that AM. And on Welch, we will have those receiving lanes as far as we have right of way today. As developments come in along Welch, the city and the county will be looking to continuously extend that as those opportunities come in. So we will have to go back to 2 lanes, eastbound on Welch, but at least we get people through that intersection, and then we'll have to deal with that as it goes further to the east.
Thank you, Brian. And then I see that Pam has her hand up. So Pam, if you wanted to say a few words, unmute and say a few words. Pam, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you.
He just wanted me to
Now?
know that she was on.
We just heard you, Pam.
You can hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to remind everyone that the driving factor of this study was we started trying to fix that southbound left movement, and it morphed into a much larger study. And as I think the mayor mentioned earlier, our desire to make improvements at Sandpiper Road was in part to address that southbound left movement. So yes, it's more than just providing dual left turns, southbound left turns, and dual receiving lanes on Welch. There are other factors playing in. We're being careful with our land use to make sure it makes sense.
Thank you, Pam.
Thanks. Now here is a question from Susan that is probably for our local government maintaining agencies, perhaps. She says, because of vegetation on the northwest corner, it's hard for her to see oncoming traffic as she turns from eastbound Welch onto southbound Rock Springs. Is there any way to get that vegetation trimmed before the project is even underway?
Well, we have some fabulous staff here from the city of Apopka and Orange County who just heard your request, so we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, I mean, our maintenance crews can, whether it's the city or the county, can look to see if that vegetation is hanging over into the right of way. Of course, we can't get onto private property and start cutting stuff down, but we can look. And I know what you're talking about. It is a bit of a neck turn that you have to do that. And then you have that giant pole right there too. So there's a combination of things. And I will say, I'm speaking for the city, there's a proposed development that should reshape that whole corner in the hopefully in the near future and be a part of this solution. But I will report back to our maintenance district to see what can be done to help improve that sight distance.
Another thing that I think we can do is I'll call the property owners, the future developers. I think that they would be happy to come out there and trim up their property. And I think that development is coming sooner as opposed to later, so it will permanently take care of that problem. But for now, between what Brian can do and what the city can do, asking the developers, I think we can get that taken care of.
Thank you. And we're going to do some quick lightning rounds here so we could get these last 3 questions in. So we haven't talked about transit today. Is there any consideration for increasing access to transit to help ease traffic volumes?
Well, transit provisions are not contemplated as a part of the study, but we are partnering with Links. They're part of our stakeholder team. So they're involved with all of the discussions about the proposed concepts, and they're actually doing their long range planning now. So there may be something in the works. As of right now, there are no plans for additional transit, but we will pass along the desire of the citizens of that area for more transit options.
Thank you. And is a gridded street network being pursued at all for this area?
Yeah.
Well, right.
So yeah, the state park is a big challenge for a gridded network for roads. As you've seen in the southeast of Welch and Rock Springs Road, there's a very good gridded network there. There are other grids on the west side, not as frequent as on the east side, and I encourage both the county planners, land use planners, and the city land use planners, as these developments come forward in the northwest, that we continuously look for those opportunities. I know the city took an opportunity on Lester. They constructed that and made that connection from Vic all the way to Rock Springs Road, and that really helped out the mobility and the connectivity in the area. And I think they're looking as developments come forward to increase those grids and connectivities.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much. And our last question here, will the Lester Road Trail be extended? Right now, it just ends at an intersection.
Well, one of the options that we are looking at for the extension out to both the elementary and middle school and the Popka Recreation Center is utilizing that Lester Road Trail. So it uses Lester to Vic and then along Plunkin out to the schools and the recreation complex. So it's something that we've taken into account. So potentially it'll be extended.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the members of our audience who submitted some wonderful questions. And we saw some of you submitted some concerns as well. So even though we didn't deliver those because they weren't questions, we do have those noted. And we hope that you will take the survey and note those concerns in your survey. And thank you also to all the members of our study team who did a great job with our questions. So I will throw it over to Laura to close us out.
Okay, thank you, Cynthia, so much for moderating our question and answer session. Again, for those of you who've hung on this long, we appreciate you taking the time to join us for this public meeting. And thank you so much for your questions. After you leave the Zoom meeting, we encourage you to visit the virtual meeting room if you have availability to do so. Amy, if you could put up that last slide from the presentation. We'll send out an email to those of you who have signed up for the project email list tomorrow morning. And the email is going to include links to the project website, the virtual meeting room, and the project survey. Please share that email with your family, friends, and coworkers who you think may be interested in these studies. And when you visit the virtual meeting room, please explore the options presented today at your own pace and let us know what you think of them by filling out the project survey, which you can access in the lobby of the virtual room. And the virtual room and the survey both will be open until the end of February, so February 28th. And after that, the links to the project materials within the virtual room will be available directly on the project website. And we'll be putting a link to that virtual meeting room in the chat for this meeting here just shortly. And then with that, I'd like to say thank you so much for your time today. We'll get that link into the meeting room, and then we're gonna go ahead and sign off.
Well, thanks, ladies. Thanks, Cynthia, Laura, and Amy. Appreciate all you did to put this on tonight. So, and even Brian Sanders, he helped us out a little bit too. Thank you. Thanks everybody for being a part.
Thank you
of
so
it.
much, Mayor. Thank you to all the panelists today. All right. Let's see. Hold on.
And as Laura puts that link in the chat in just a moment, right when the Zoom webinar closes, you will notice that your internet browser will open up and it will give you a direct link to the survey. And there you will find embedded a little 10-minute video. If you need a refresh of anything that you've heard tonight, feel free to watch that. If you're ready to go ahead and give us your opinions right away, you can go ahead and fill out the survey. But again, tomorrow you will be receiving an email with all the links that you need so that if you want to think about it a little more and give us your opinions in a few days, you'll have time to do that. And you'll have actually till February 28th to do so.
All right, thank you, Cynthia. All right, and that link is in the chat now. Go ahead and copy it. And if you don't have time today, we'll have that email coming to you tomorrow. Thanks so much for your time and good night.
Good night.